Hello, book lovers. This is the Blue-Eyed Black Devil. I wanted to come in and give you a quick read, or rather a quick review of a book that I just finished reading. It wasn't even an hour long. The title of the book is called Raggin, a story about Scott Joplin by Barbara Mitchell, with illustrations by Hetty Mitchell. Okay, so if you know anything about who Scott Joplin was, you know that he was a black composer, the first black composer that I am aware of from, back in 1700s, 1800s. So with that being said, he, not very many records are known or kept on Scott Joplin because of the period he lived in. But what we do know from this book anyway is that Scott Joplin was born to parents Giles, a railroad worker, and Florence Joplin, a cleaning lady and sometimes music teacher in Texarkana, Texas. Sometimes they'll say Texarkana, Arkansas, so that just depends on where you're gleaming your facts. He was one of 6 children. His father strongly discouraged his son's love of music, while his mother strongly encouraged it. All of the children were musically inclined, but Scott was the only one who actually pursued his love of music. He started out playing in church like a lot of us have done. At age 16, he formed a quartet, but he wasn't in that group long before he joined the riverboat, where he went out and really started to earn his keep as a pianist. Okay. Scott Joplin is known as the king of ragtime because of his unique style of play and his technique. Now, the term ragtime is defined as dancing music played on a piano. Scott Joplin went on and composed many rags, but his most famous rag was and still is Maple Leaf Rag, which was composed in 1902. Also in 1902, he composed his most successful work, which was title is The Entertainer. In 1974, a movie was released entitled The Sting, but The Entertainer was the soundtrack that was played throughout that movie. So The Entertainer in the mid-70s was renamed or recalled The Thing from Sting. But today, our kids and grandchildren will probably know The Entertainer / the thing from Sting as the ice cream truck music. That's where I hear it more or less nowadays. Okay. His most ambitious work was actually a black opera titled Tremonisha. Tremonisha, he completed it in his before he passed, but it was not received very well, and that was a big letdown to him because he gave it his all right. Now, Joplin married twice. His first wife's name was Belle Hayden. It doesn't say what year they married, but they had one child, a little girl who did not survive. She died I'm assuming within the first months of life. But what I found so unique about that particular marriage, this lady, his wife, Belle, she truly loved Scott and he did love her. But she did not like music of any kind, of any sort, for any reason or body. She just did not like music. And that kind of stuck out to me because I had heard that once before. And that's the first time I ever knew an actual human being could not like some type of music. That's kind of scary to me, but he thought if he gave her music lessons, she would eventually learn to appreciate, but nope, didn't happen. So after the loss of the baby and she just could not learn to like music or appreciate how he made his living, they got a divorce. Years later, he married a lady named Lottie Stokes. He met her in New York. If they had children, it wasn't stated in this book. She was married, Lottie and Scott were married when he composed the ragtime opera Tremonisha. And he said that, well, it was said rather that only thing he asked is for her to have Maple Leaf Rag played at his funeral, which she didn't. April 1st, 1917, Scott Joplin passed away from syphilis and dementia. He was only 48 years old. His funeral was attended by his wife Lottie and a handful of acquaintances. He was buried in an unmarked grave. I think that really sucks after all he did and his life, that he, did not achieve the heights that we know as success today. But then when he was buried, nobody thought enough of him to attend. Now, I realized transportation back then was not what it is today. Shoot, neither was mail. So it's possible that he had siblings still alive, but they didn't know until it was too late. I don't know, it's just sad, but he lived out the last year or so of his life in an institution. Anyway, that's my take on this book. Once again, it's titled Raggin, a story about Scott Joplin, written by Barbara Hetty with illustrations written by Barbara Mitchell with illustrations by Hetty Mitchell. Now, there are two other books you might care to read about Scott Joplin or the study of ragtime. One of them is called The Man Who Played Ragtime. The other one is They All Played Ragtime. Now, got a few questions. One, have you ever read this book, or have you even ever heard of this book? If you haven't ever heard of the book or read it, does it sound like anything you would be interested in reading? If so, why? And if not, why not? Get down in the comments and let me know exactly what you think about this review I just gave. And realize this is the first review I've ever done on YouTube. But I'm interested in knowing how you feel about my quick cap. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye-bye.